formed back in 1995. A few of us have always wanted to put on cinema, so we called together. We put out an email on the Haringey Solidarity Group list, and also our local residents association where I was living at the time, and said, does anyone want to be involved in putting on a film group that shows different types of films to try and get people thinking about things in a different way. There was about 7 or 8 people that came along. There's still 2 or 3 of us in it. Some people have dropped out, some others have got involved. Over the initial discussions, and it was 6 months before we showed one film, and at the time all we were going to do was show 3 films and see how it goes, and that was 8 years ago. But we could never find a venue, and then we found the West Green Learning Centre that had the auditorium, and that sort of kicked us into gear.
It's always been stuck behind these big blue railings, no one quite knowing what it was, and we were really worried about the fact that it wasn't really being used enough, and that in terms of making it an asset for the community, it's important to be using it. Because obviously you can put a film on anywhere, but it feels quite special to have your own auditorium, well, not our auditorium, but to be able to have an auditorium to do it.
When we first started, we intended to show 3 films, and we was going to see how they went, and then we was either going to stop or carry on and take it from there. So
the first film we screened was McLibel, about the court case and the trial of 2 local activists who were sued by McDonald's. It's a really great film. We also had Helen Steele and Dave Morris here to speak afterwards. The cinema was packed, it was really exciting. It set us up with quite a tall task to follow because if you'd had 20 people at your first showing, you'd have thought, great, that's a good start. We had 130 or something, so after that, obviously, we were really keen to keep going.
We put on a good film. We can get 100, 120 people in. Keep expecting the bubble to burst and people saying, oh, we don't want to go along to Haringey Independent Cinema films anymore, we've done it enough.
So the idea behind the cinema was really to get people in the community out of their houses and hanging out together.
And one of the ideas is to take people to the pub afterwards, to get people to socialise and get people to just know about each other and not be as isolated.
But also to maybe make them think about issues or challenge them a little bit in terms of showing something a bit different than you might just see at mainstream cinema or on TV. So it was a range of different reasons. But
one story that I love and I always tell people was in the pub afterwards, about a year after we'd started, and 2 women, one black and one white, came up to me and said, look, we just want to say thank you to you. And I sort of said, well, what for? And the 2 of them said, we've both realised that we've lived on the same street for 5 or 6 years and we've never talked to each other, and it's only going to one of your films we've sat in the pub and realised we live on the same street, and now we're going to make sure that we keep in contact and become friends. And stories like that to me make the whole thing worthwhile.
In August 2011, I'd become involved with Haringey Solidarity Group, and it was through them and through members of Haringey Solidarity Group that I realised that there was a link between this wonderful magical cinema down the road and the new community group I just joined, and so I became involved with. I quite enjoy introducing the films and occasionally kind of facilitating a discussion. Film has a capacity to move people at both an emotional and an intellectual and potentially a political level. and vary the films enough so that you get a different mix of people coming and a different mix of ideas and feelings being generated, you can have something genuinely community transforming. All of the films we show tend to have in common is the sense of being in some way politically provocative.
And we want to show a lot of those films that make people think and challenge the status quo. So generally, we have the venue from 7 till 9:30, which means we can show a film and maybe have a very quick debate afterwards. After every screening, we always invite people to the pub across the road. It's a way for people to meet and carry on discussing. It's a free space.
We try to decide our films a few months in advance, and what we generally do is we come up with different suggestions for films, and
We rotate the tasks and it's not too much of a burden on any one person. But we've also got people that help us that are great. We have someone that designs our leaflets for us. We have someone that helps update the website, who don't want to be in the group, but they just want to help out. Recently we've started looking at different ideas. So at the moment, a few of us want to try and go to young working class people who have produced their own films and talk to them to see if they want to come and show their film.
reaching further into parts of the community around here, to people that don't necessarily get out so much, or particularly people with families that aren't necessarily able to come out on an evening. So we're looking into maybe doing some family events and working in different areas.
I see us very much here in 2024, you know, even more solid and even more diverse.
Okay. So why do we still do it?
I think we'd like to carry on. I think
You can use something like film to, if not politicise people, to get different messages across to people that they...
Other media can't necessarily, but anyway.
And it's a fun way for people to get involved in looking at things in a different way.